Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support our show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sacred Symbols Plus, your extra Sacred Symbols. I'm your host, Dustin. Here with me, very special guest this week. We haven't done an episode like this in quite a while now. But I'm here joined by Evan Miranda, and Evan is my local game store owner here, saying little old Butler, where no one knows where that is. But apparently Butler is now the most famous place on earth, yes. Ironically, after something happening this weekend.
That's right. Who knows? Who knows? Seeing the news, seeing newscasters say Butler, Pennsylvania over and over again puts a smile on my face. Not for great reasons, but still a smile.
Yeah. Crazy weekend. But Evan, thank you for joining me today. Before we get started, just how are you? This is so for Sacred recording 11 a.m. a little early for most of our crew. I'm always up at this point, but how are you today?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing really well. Thanks for asking. It's good. It's hot in Butler. I think it's going to be like in the 90s today, so it's nice and warm, but I'm in a nice cool basement right now, which is great.
Yeah, I was joking with Holly. My first hard-hitting question was like, so your store's called Maiden Level Games, but you're on a basement.
Yes.
Sounds a little dishonest here. You know, it should be basement level games.
I'm going to blame my wife. She came up with the game or with the name, and I came up with the location. So she should have known, when she made up with the name that, months later we'd be in a basement. I don't know how she didn't have that foresight, but that's definitely the best talking point of the store is when people walk down the 2 flights of stairs to get here. They're like, "Hey, what's going on with your name?" I'm like, This is where we're at. What's cool though is like the basement feels like it feels like an old, like your parents' game room when you grew up type of thing. Like it does feel like you're taken back in time, like into the 90s, like walking downstairs into your game room.
Yeah, and the basement name, ironically, there is another business just a few doors down that's your parents' basement, right? It's like a board game place.
100%. So they're an awesome local business here. They do tabletop gaming, D&D. So their name is Your Parents' Basement. They're on the main level, and we're Main Level Games in a basement. So at some point we have to make fun of our names on social media or something. But yeah.
Yeah. It is kind of funny how it's turned out on Main Street in Butler that, I mean, you and I both grew up in Butler. You were a few grades below me, right? Because I was class of 2012.
Yes. Yeah, I was 2010.
Okay, so, but you understand the idea. It's like there's nothing in Butler, especially downtown sucks. But now we have a video game store, a comic book store, a D&D and tabletop board game store. It seems kind of crazy now in hindsight, thinking back, like, oh, there's a brewery, awesome restaurants. It's like, it's been a real vitalization of our downtown.
Yeah, it really has been, man. Like, and this has all happened really in the last, 5 to 10 years. And what's crazy is all those places that you just mentioned, we're all within a block or two of each other. So we have this hobbyist kind of collection community that's popped up in Butler. Like you said, breweries, restaurants, all opening up somewhat recently. And what's cool is, in the store here all the time, I'll get, people will walk down here with bags from the comic book store, or there's a local card collecting shop, like right around the corner from here, a 20-second walk. So people will come into all of these stores with these other small businesses, bags, and like the microeconomics of that is really cool. If you're a collector or a hobbyist, Butler, Pennsylvania is a great place to be for all those reasons and stores that you just mentioned. But they all support each other. Like the community here is a very tight-knit community. We are supportive of each other from a store owner perspective too. So the fact that you can come here and, like you said, tabletop gaming, comic books, card collecting, video games, awesome breweries, all here within a few blocks of each other on a main street, which is sweet.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think we're just going to credit it to Ben since he was the mayor.
Yeah, that's right.
4 years. You said it started about 5 years ago.
Perfect.
I mean,
that timeline's good. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know if that'll inflate his ego or not, but we'll give him that one.
We'll give him that. So, Evan, let's start out. I guess we've already kind of started, but I want to just ask you first, like, you and I, so I guess the background, you and I met at your shop around opening, but you sort of knew my wife Holly because you'd go into Penny's.
Yes.
Right?
I'm a glutton for pastries. So there's a local bake shop here in town. Well, I guess it's an espresso and espresso. Sorry, the Italian and maybe said espresso. The espresso and bakery called Penny's Bakery. So yeah, your wife Holly was a barista there for years, right?
Yeah, like 5-ish, I think. So yeah.
So I was in there way too often buying oatmeal cream pies, slices of cake, cookies. And so her and I we'd strike up conversation constantly. So yeah, all these years later, then you and I finally got to connect.
Right. Yeah. When Holly worked at Penny's, it got to a point where I was like, babe, you got to stop. I love when you bring me stuff home, but you got to stop or limit it because this is just like, this is not working out.
Dude, I always wondered, was that a daily thing for the baristas there? Like, would it was like, hey, this has been in the case for like 2 days. We either have to throw it out or you can take it home. Was that like a every couple day thing for you?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like Holly would bring me home like a cinnamon roll, 2 cookies here and there, all kinds of stuff. And it was awesome, but it was like the little kid dream of like, I can have Pennies every day. And then you realize the reality of like what that actually does to you. And it's like, maybe not so good, but
right.
So yeah, you and I have known each other for a few months now, nothing too serious, just coming in, talking to you at the shop, but who are you? And, what's your story as far as like getting into games and starting shop, whatever, start at the very beginning, the day you were born. I don't care. Let me know.
Yes. January 1st, actually, believe it or not, January 1st, 1992. So there was a kid, my parents told me this years later. So like if you're, and I won't actually go through my whole life, but this is just a funny story. January 1st. So if you're the first baby born on the new year, you get like an incredible amount of gifts. Your family gets gift cards. So I was the second baby born in the hospital I was born in that year. And, my parents will have reminded me of that more recently in life. But so yeah, gaming has been a part of my life since I was a kid. The first video game I ever played, I was at my cousins Anthony and Angelo's house. They live up in New York. It was a demo disc on the PS1. So I've been a PlayStation kid for my entire life. Only ever owned PlayStation consoles for the most part. But so this demo disc, they pop it in. I never even heard of video games up until this point. So I had to be maybe 5 years old. So they pop in this demo disc. It has Croc Legend of the Gobos on it, Crash Bandicoot 2 Cortex Strikes Back. It has Parappa the Rappa. There had to be like an NBA or Madden on there, I'm sure. But I played Crash Bandicoot 2 Cortex Strikes Back, and my life changed that day. I didn't know it at the time, but we played the same level. I can't remember the exact level on that game, but I played that level 30 times at my cousin's house. And I became obsessed. Like, for whatever a 5-year-old can be obsessed with, video games all of a sudden became the only thing I was thinking about. Like, it was just such a dopamine hit for me. And so that coming Christmas, that was the only thing I asked for. Ended up receiving that, the system, the PS1, a memory card, and Crash Bandicoot 2, and then played that game for as many hours as I could, every single Saturday. That was what I did that entire winter, and then continued to just be a PlayStation kid. It was, the logical next steps were the other Crash games. Got through those. I played all of the Crocs, the Gex, so many of these games that were just, oh man, these platformers, I'm a sucker for them. So went on to start playing PS2. All my buddies had PS2. I feel like everyone and their mom had a PS2 back then. When you sell 155 million units, that's just, everyone's got one or two in the house. So always playing those. Moved on to PS3. The first system I ever bought with my own money was a PlayStation 3. Bought the 60 gig backwards compatible. Spent $600 on it. Couldn't afford a game, so I had this system but not many games were out at that point. So I had this $600 system with, I know, you know what? It was $660 because I bought a second controller. Didn't own a game because I couldn't afford it, and just stared at it and was in awe of this enormous, just like 20-pound piece of hardware that I had purchased but couldn't play. So just always been into video games, always been a PlayStation kid. And I got into the collecting scene of gaming right before COVID. So it was a really good time to get into it. I had done some. I had always just held on to my stuff, so I never really sold it up until high school. I got rid of most of my collection, sold it to GameStop. Had some regrets before I entered the threshold, leaving GameStop that day, and I was like, you know what? I guess I'm done. Whatever. And then, about a year after that, got back into it, got back all my consoles. So I guess I was collecting then, even though I just wanted the stuff I got rid of back. But got into collecting video games in general. Yeah, this had to be like 2019, maybe. Yeah, 2018, 2019. So I started to collect based on franchise. So I said, first, Crash Bandicoot. I wanted to collect every Crash Bandicoot game across every system. Ended up completing that. And this was all done mostly locally. And I'm sure we'll get into to Butler and how generational it is and how people hang on to stuff here. So we'll get into that at some point, I'm sure. But very, very strategically collecting based on franchise. So it was, like I said, Crash, and then it got into the Croc, which wasn't very difficult. Moved on to Mario. I never even grew up really playing Mario games, but I was like, well, Mario is a thing. I'll collect that. Then I wanted to collect Pokemon. Couldn't afford it, so I moved to so many other things. And all of a sudden, I had a whole room in my house dedicated to video game collecting. And so, we ended up moving to downtown Butler to kind of be more involved in our community. And that room turned into our entire attic at our house downtown. And so from there, I was looking at my wife, and we wanted to open up a business to kind of be a community-driven business for our town. We wanted to have it be a safe place for kids, a place where people could just connect. And I thought, what about a video game store? We don't have one here in the city of Butler, and I'm actually the only dedicated store to games and vintage gaming, aside from GameStop, in the whole county. So we ended up opening up Main Level Games this past year, based on a lifetime of playing and a more recent time of collecting. And what's crazy is my attic at home is still full. It's still full with video games that I can't fit in the store. So that problem didn't get solved of moving those games out, but we have a community-driven store that is a great place to connect for gamers, for collectors, for kids, for families. That is growing pretty quickly, which is awesome.
Do you have like an official, or I guess like mission statement? Because I remember when you guys were opening, that was kind of the big thing. It was like, we want this to be a play, and you have like consoles set up, and when I've walked in, there's very rarely times that I walk in by myself anymore, or just Holly and I. There's always people around. So it seems like that really is one of the big drives of the business.
100%. So, dude, I'm pretty good at talking with people, buying and selling games. I'm not great at like the traditional business, like mission statement, like have that memorized, have that plastered, tattooed on myself. So you had mentioned it. Our mission is really to create a safe place for kids, a community for gamers, and for people to just come and hang out at a place in Butler. Like you said, what's really cool is, I'm open Tuesday through Saturday here, and almost any point of any day, there's someone in here that I'm able to chat with. I'm huge on building community. I was a youth pastor for years here in the Butler area, and community was a huge part of that part of my life. It was creating a place where people feel like they can connect, they could be vulnerable, they could be honest, they can share experiences. And that's what this building and that's what this store has become, is just a place for gamers to come and share. Like, there's, I don't know, like I remember, a huge part of gaming for me was growing up in the console wars of the PS3 and the 360. And there was an incredible, you would have been in junior high school at the time when that was happening too. There was an incredible amount of competition between, because, for almost all of us, we only owned one of those. You were either a PS3 kid or you were a 360 kid. And there was a crazy amount of competition. And that, I think, transcends just that console war. There's a lot of competition in gaming in general, and there's a lot of strong opinion. There's a lot of, this is the right way, this is the wrong way, and a lot of those, all the opinions are welcome, and everyone's okay to have them. What's cool about a local game store is the connection is the game store. So there isn't much competition when people walk in here. It's really just community and a collective feeling of reliving a childhood experience or picking up a game that you haven't seen or touched or thought about in 2 decades. People come in here not to compete, but to collect together and game together, which is really sweet. Like that's certainly, I think healthy. I have to make sure that, because a desire of this is to have it be an experience-based store that is like tournament driven as well. So I want to make sure that like competition doesn't destroy this business. I don't believe it ever would, but it's cool to see people come in and feel welcome, feel like nostalgic, feel vulnerable, because for a lot of folks, when they walk into the store and they see a game that they haven't seen since they were 5 or 6, like, I'll be honest, Dustin, like there's a lot of people that had, I mean, man, we all have some sort of trauma from our childhood, right?
Sure.
So
yeah.
for a lot of folks, like video games were an escape from maybe a tough home life, our relationships that weren't going well, different traumas, different things that really affected folks. But gaming was just a moment of release or a moment of freedom from that life of, potential toughness. And for people that will walk in and they'll see a game that got them through a tough time when they were a kid, like they become vulnerable. Like, I mean, man, I talked to people about what they're going through all the time. They're just, when you're around something that made you feel a certain way as a child, and for the most part good when it comes to games, like their guard gets let down, they can be more free, they can be themselves. And that's what the store continues to provide. And like, no thanks to me. I just happened to be open and I had a bunch of games that I had to sell. It's the people that come in here that are willing to be vulnerable and willing to open up about what that game meant to them. And for a lot of people, like some of these games mean the world to them because of what that game helped them get through 20, 30, 40 years ago, which is amazing.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I think, one of the things that's been surprising to me watching your store is that before I knew who you were or whatever, it was Ben that told me, he's like, hey, our friend Jeff Smith,
yeah,
our mutual friend Jeff Smith, who's your neighbor.
Yeah, next door.
He's like, his neighbor is opening up a game store on Main Street. And I was like, oh, interesting. And my immediate thought was like, I don't know if that will work here.
I didn't either.
yeah. Mainly just because I love Western PA. I love Butler in particular, for a lot of people that don't hate living here or whatever. I'm like,
sure.
No, these are around here. It's like good, hardworking, blue collar people. And, for its positive and negatives. And when I was a bartender at Ben's Speakeasy, I would see this quite a bit, where you see a guy looking for cigars and he pulls one out. He's like, oh, this one costs $5 extra because it comes in a tube or something, like very like,
yeah.
That kind of thing. And so I was like, man, with a game store, I would imagine there's a lot of people that would come in and be like, oh, well, these cost quite a bit more than when I was 20 years ago. This is a scam or something like that. And it's like, no, this is how it is now for everywhere, not just here.
Sure.
But so I saw, and I heard about that. I was like, I don't know if this is going to work out. But since how many months ago was that now? I think you maybe said 7.
So yeah, we opened up in November of 2023. So we're at 8-ish?
7, 8-ish. Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever the math is.
Following you on Instagram, you talk about these regulars that come in. I see the same people sometimes popping up that are regulars. The regulars when I come in and see, and you're constantly having new trade-ins and new stuff like that. It's like, oh no, this is actually working out quite well, it seems.
Yeah. You know what? It really is. That's a great coupling with what I mentioned earlier. With Butler being very generational, a lot of people that are from here, they might move away, but then they end up moving back, or they just stay here, and that's okay. Typically mom and dad are here, grandma and grandpa are here, aunts and uncles, for the most part, for most people in Butler, are still in the Western PA or Butler area. So a lot of people are able to, they just hold on to their stuff. So like, because it's so generational, like there's a lot of hoarders, and I don't even mean that in a negative term. There's just people just don't tend to get rid of their stuff very often. What's happening now is, I think, for gaming in this area, there just wasn't really a place to trade your stuff in. Nothing against GameStop, but GameStop locally doesn't take a lot of vintage stuff. I know some GameStops do, and I haven't been to ours in maybe a month or two, so I'll have to go and check and see. I know GameStop's updating some stuff with what they're taking in.
Yeah.
but a lot of people just didn't really have a chance to offload a lot of their games, or really have a place to get some new old games. So I was able to just hit a community that was in need of something that I wasn't even totally sure it was going to work. Like I said earlier, there's 5 or 6 awesome game stores in the Pittsburgh area. We're about 45 minutes north of Pittsburgh. Like I said, I'm the only one in this county, so I'm the only one north of Pittsburgh, and that's certainly helpful. Just because people don't really want to travel an hour to their local game store, they'd like to travel. They'd like to walk to it. So even being right on Main Street, that's helpful. Yeah, man, I certainly had the concern too of people coming in here and saying, $700 for a video game. What are you doing? Like, are you crazy? Like, I'm going to write a bad review on Google. This is ridiculous. We're going to run you out of this town. The exact opposite has happened, which I'm so grateful for. Now, I am sure that there are some people that don't know about vintage gaming or video game collecting in general that would come down here and see the number, the zeros behind a number on some of these games and think that I'm on drugs. But those people they're not looking for a game store, and they're not finding me, and that's okay. Like, that's totally fine. But the people that come in here, for the vast, vast, vast majority, are so understanding of the prices. They're so understanding of the market, which is great. Dude, there are more collectors in the city of Butler, not even just the Butler area, but the city of Butler, than I ever thought. I've had collections that are worth thousands and thousands of dollars walk into the store that I'm like, hey, are you from Pittsburgh? Are you from? They're like, no, I live 2 blocks away. That's happened half a dozen times. People that are selling off their collection or just looking to trade for some high ticket games. The collecting community, like we said earlier, with the different hobbies, whether it's cards or comics, tabletop gaming, D&D, and video games, is huge in this area. And the number of gamers and collectors, the number of families with kids that are getting their kids into gaming in Butler is shocking. I'm very friendly with the other game store owners here in the Pittsburgh area. They'll come into the store and they're like, how do you get all these trade-ins? I'm like, I've stopped questioning it, because it's just Butler. Like, Butler supports Butler. There's no doubt about that. But the people in this area, the gamers in this area, the collectors in this area are very passionate, much more than I think I even anticipated, which has been great for the business, but even better for the community that's being built here. They're like you said, the regulars that pop in here. I have guys that come in, 2-3 days a week. Maybe like it's on their lunch break. Some it's literally just to hang out. They work evenings, and so during the day they're like, I'll just go to the game store. I have so many regulars that are weekly, some that are biweekly, people that are in here from Pittsburgh monthly. So the reputation has certainly been great. And like I said, I'm going to credit so much of that to the people that come in here, because they continue to come back. And that is their trust in this store and their trust in the community. Like I said, I just happen to open the door every day when I'm open. So it's the people that come in that make this store actually happen. Thank goodness.
Well, I think it says something in general. We had a brief conversation about this at some point when I was in, about like, it's really easy, and this really applies to any business, but I think where, you're dealing and making trades with people for sometimes very, very high value items.
Yeah.
And there's a level of trust there, whether someone's trading in or someone's buying from you, that something that it's even in the Pittsburgh area where I'd say there's just, there's a few game stores here and there, and obviously not mentioning any names at all, but sure, there's some that have great reputations and there's some that don't.
Sure.
And I feel like amongst at least the people that are in this community, it's like word spreads fast. And so I don't know, what do you think of like this idea of like this level of trust? One thing that you told me was that was like, and a piece of advice you got was like, you got to make sure you take care of the people that come in. And it's not that you're like, I'm giving them crazy deals to try to suck up, but it's like, these are the people that are not only going to buy from you, but also bring you stuff. Yeah. And you want to make sure that's like a relationship that is cyclical in a positive way.
Yes, 100%. That advice was treat your regulars well. And the truth is, every single one of those regulars, there's, I was thinking about this a couple of days ago. There's probably 30 to 40 people that are here weekly. They've all become friends. So I want to treat my friends well, not just regulars. So all those regulars though have become friends. So like that relationship has organically surpassed customer very quickly. Like I said, with some of these folks that are coming in weekly, like we end up talking about some pretty deep things, some very vulnerable things on both ends. What you said earlier is very true. Reputation as a store owner is everything. Like once that reputation begins to get broken or shattered, the community, not just in Western PA video game collecting, but nationwide, is extremely tight. Like players in this community know players. I'm a part of so many Facebook groups. Some of them are store owner groups, but a lot of them are just collectible groups for video games. And like the moment that a deal goes south, that person's name is shared amongst all the groups very quickly. And they're either out forever or it takes a long time to rebuild that trust and to rebuild that excuse me, that reputation. As a store owner, if I were to consistently rip people off, that would be made known. If I were to share with people that, hey, I knowingly took advantage of this person, that would be made known. Like you said, Butler, everyone knows everybody. So word does travel quick, like you'd mentioned. In the greater Pittsburgh collecting community, that's the same deal. The moment that there's, man, I like I said, I'm certainly new to the obviously to the store owner part of this. There is weird drama. There is like drama that gets discussed. I certainly try to stay out of it as much as I can, but like reputation is very key. I will say this, with the other game store owners that I have talked to in the Pittsburgh area, I've only had great interactions with. That's certainly, my opinion. And that's like outside of Pittsburgh, I will see content creators will go to game stores. Then they'll obviously post that content. Maybe they made a video, had an interview, and that content will be posted. And then opinions then fly in the comments pretty consistently. So there really is, not just to continue to be a good business person, but as a person that desires to be respected, I want to make sure that I hold a good reputation. If I this is, I don't know, a personal thing. So like if I have a good reputation because I'm treating people honestly, I can have hopefully a positive influence on their life and I can add value to their life. So that certainly is the case every single day when I'm making a deal with someone. I'm thinking the track record shows that this person's probably going to come back into the store unless they live in California and pop in because they're visiting family. But the track record shows this person's going to be a repeat customer, or at least they're going to walk back in. So when they walk back in, I want to be able to add value to that day. I want to be able to, I don't know, listen to them if they want to talk about something deep or something going on. I want to be a positive influence in their life because that's what I desire to be. And that's not, that's just something that I try to live by. That doesn't mean I cannot be a great person. Trust me, I can be a sack of crap. But like I try to consistently add value to people's lives. So if I break that ability to add value because people can't trust me because I take advantage of them, then the idea of a community that I'm trying to build is just destroyed. So in a community, you need trust, right? So that's why as an Italian, I was always told to trust other Italians because we're like this community thing. So once trust is broken in a community, then it begins to crumble, and not only financially for me, that would be terrible, but the community would crumble behind any trust that I break. So I try to consistently earn people's trust every time they come in here. By the way, I'm answering these so long. If I'm going too long, say, Evan, shut your mouth and let me ask another question.
All I'll say this: our audience is used to it. So long response. This is probably light for them.
Okay, cool. That's great.
This is light. So they're well trained. You're totally good, dude. That's it's always, I prefer long answers because people are listening to this preferably listen to you and not me.
Cool.
So
awesome.
So that's great. Let's dial back here. Because this is a question just I was wondering overall about when you got started. So something I always wonder about game stores is that Well, when you open, you need to have some base level of inventory, of course. So what was that process like? I mean, I'm certain you were on Facebook Market and yard sales and stuff, but like, what was it like gathering up? When did you realize, like, okay, I think I've got enough stuff to get the ball rolling?
Yeah, that's a great question. Really good question. So, like I said, I started collecting pretty consistently in 2018, 2019. Like I'd mentioned, started by collecting franchises. So what helped in that capacity was the inventory was not like, I didn't have an overwhelming amount of shooters or adventure games or platformers, RPGs, sport. Well, I do have a bunch of sports games, but I just can't sell those. But so because I wasn't focused on a specific type of game, even though I love platformers. But because I was collecting by franchise, the spectrum of games was just huge. So I sourced every single game that was in this store. Our opening day came locally over 3 or 4 years of Facebook Marketplace hunting, garage sales, yard sales, estate sales. Like I said, started just to collect franchises, but very quickly turned into no goal, which is the worst way to collect video games. So when you don't have a goal, I feel like I started with a goal and then very quickly I lost it. When you don't have a goal in collecting, you end up with enough games to fill a game store. So it was just, it was every single day morning. I started to learn certain things about Facebook Marketplace, like when people would typically post in our area, which was like 9 a.m., 2 p.m., and like 10 p.m. for some reason. That's a terrible time to post on Facebook Marketplace because no one's going to see it. But I started to learn that some people were posting that time. So those times throughout the day, I'd set reminders to just go on a marketplace. And whenever COVID hit, two things happened. People did begin to clean out their houses, even though, Butler's, a lot of people hoard their stuff. People were cleaning out their homes and started, because they just had time, and started to want to sell stuff on Facebook Marketplace. Couple that with the fact that we all had so much time on our hands and people wanted to relive a lot of nostalgic feelings from childhood. And a lot of those nostalgic feelings had to do with video games. So you had people that were selling and people that were buying just got ramped up times 10 from early 2020, really through 2021. So I was just, like I said, we all had a lot of time. So I was driving to Pittsburgh. I'd wake up at 5 a.m. and turn over to my wife and I'd say, "Hey, Kai, I got to drive to Pittsburgh to pick up a box of cardboard." And she'd be like, "You're an insane person, but I'll see you at 7 a.m. when you get back home." So I was doing that a few days a week. After work at the time, I'd be driving to Pittsburgh. I'd be driving to Cranberry, Grove City, Slippery Rock, wherever that I'd find these deals. And I was able to buy boxes of games. I'd always certainly try to be fair to the individuals that I was buying. If there was ever a grail, or in the collecting community, a grail is just a really high-end game you've been hunting. If there was ever a grail in a box, I'd make sure that they knew that they had something. Then we'd negotiate. But it was just an almost daily occurrence for months and months and months early COVID, and that is what created the monster that became my attic. Was just you couldn't walk anywhere. There were games everywhere, systems, accessories, memorabilia, old T-shirts, posters of anything that I could find locally for video games. And at the time, 2021, 2022, a video game store was never really on the table. That wasn't the goal that we had for a community-driven store. We were looking into clothing stores, thrift stores, things that could be really active within helping, local schools, local homeless shelters. But so as I was continuing to collect and continuing to find these deals in the Pittsburgh area, I turned to my wife and I said, "What about a video game store?" And then that was 2022. So I got I registered the name with the government, got my EIN, I got the bank account, started to do some online stuff as I was looking for the brick and mortar part of this business. And then 2023, we ended up finding it. But the entirety of the initial inventory was my collection. So I came to the realization that obviously if I had to open up a game store, then some of these games that I had held onto from childhood, or some of these games that I had found out in the wild, had to be a part of that store. So I made the decision to kind of, this was tough. This was really difficult, to sever my attachment to my collection. A lot of game store owners don't do that. And like, I get it. I so get it. I didn't have the ability to be able to keep a lot of stuff and put a lot of stuff in the store. My collection just wasn't big enough. If I was to have a good variety, I needed to sever my attachment to my collection. So, this store holds right around 2,000 games. They were all from my collection. I've held on to about 6 games. Now, obviously, at any point, if I wanted to I have, like you'd mentioned, TVs here set up with consoles. If I wanted to pop a game in and play, I certainly could. But my personal collection has been dwindled down to, like I said, it's got to be maybe around 10 games. And I've made the commitment, and I know the MO with game stores is anything good that comes in goes straight to the owner's collection. That's what
I've seen that.
a lot of high-end collectors, that's why they, and I have a lot of them tell me that come in here. They're like, we don't normally buy from game stores because I know I'm not getting the best stuff. I haven't brought a single game home. I haven't added anything to my collection of, like I said, 10 or less games. I've made the commitment to have the goal of the store never be for me to build a collection, but for the community-driven part of this store to succeed well. And so, yeah, man, boy, is it hard though. Some of the stuff that comes into the store, dude, I'll stare at it and I won't put it out for sale because I'm just looking at it because it's just the craziest stuff comes into this store. Stuff I never thought I'd see in my life just walks in, and it's someone, like I said, that lives 5 minutes away. It's crazy.
I got that impression. So the audience knows, for Sacred Symbols listeners, I bought Tron Bon, and it was from you, which, for disclosure, I asked you to do this podcast after I bought it. So I'm not trying to get any kind of deal out of this. There's no money exchanging. But when I bought it from you, you were excited, obviously. I mean, it's one of the biggest heavy hitters on PlayStation to go through. But you're like, I'm only slightly disappointed I never got to display it because it came in and out that fast. But I kind of like this idea that obviously your store is your inventory and the lifeblood of keeping not only the store alive, but keeping you alive to some degree, because it's how you make money. But 100%. It's kind of cool that for certain games, I'm sure, you had Snatcher in, and I mean, that's super cool. And it's you got to have the experience of owning it.
Oh my.
And it's part of your store is kind of your rotating collection in a way, which most collectors aren't playing their games anyway.
Sure.
And then they get the high of buying it. Me, guilty as charged, high of buying a game and then looking at it for a bit, and then it goes on display, and then you don't think about it for months, years, who knows.
Oh yeah.
But you kind of you get just the good part there, where you get the high of it coming in, checking it out, owning it, even if it is for just a week, like Tron Bon.
Right.
So I've never thought about it that way, but that sounds neat. The fact you haven't brought anything home is insane to me. That's some real restraint.
Yeah, it's no. You know what? You're 100% right though. That feeling of opening a box and seeing what that individual, that regular, that customer has brought in to sell or trade that day, that has become enough. Because every single day that I've been open, except for one, I've had items traded in. And that one day it was a monsoon outside. So no one was walking around. So every single day I've been open, I've had trade-ins. And when someone walks in with a box and they set it down and I'm like, oh, awesome. I'll start going through it. And they say, hey, I got 4 more boxes in the car. I just start to get really excited. I'm a kid on Christmas morning. I'm the guy 5 years ago, 6 years ago that was going up to a garage sale looking for, the first, for all you collectors out there, the first thing you want to look for is Xbox 360 games, because the case is so glowing that that they're going to have more video games there. So you always look for the neon green case because then you know there's games. So, walking into those garage sales all those years ago, I'd get really excited when I see the games, and I get to experience that every day. And so the excitement pre-opening the store was always then displaying the game, seeing the game, remembering where I got it. And now it's the excitement is truly, getting the game, pricing it, finding the buyer, you, for example, with Tron Bon, and then selling it to you. and seeing the excitement of the person that's making the purchase. Like that has totally replaced collecting games for me. And like, I don't know if that's controversial or not. It's weird. I'm not a collector anymore either. You know, I don't have a collection. I have 10 games or less in my house right now, and I still play them, but I don't really. It's funny with playing games too. Like you mentioned, like people ask me all the time, what games are you playing? If I play a video game, I'll play stuff from the 90s that I grew up with. But you know, more recently, I tell people I play 10 seconds of every game to test it to make sure it works. So like, I don't really. It's a weird spot to be in as a game owner. I don't necessarily play games consistently. It's not possible. I have to test games, you know, daily. I have to, you know, clean games daily. I have to resurface games every day I'm here. I have to then make the deals every day, interact with customers. When I get home, you know, my wife and I have a 1-year-old daughter who I have to not have to. I want to spend time with. Yeah. So like it's, you know, we're doing a house renovation. It's a weird point in my life where I'm not able to play games nearly as much as I'd like to. I don't necessarily collect games that I display for my own personal enjoyment. Being a game store owner that doesn't take any games home makes me just a game store owner, and that's okay. You know, I certainly have tried to make it an effort to not find my identity in owning video games. But it's an interesting spot to be in right now, and I'm okay to be there because of the community that is being developed around this store. Like if it wasn't for you, and if it wasn't for the regulars and the customers, like I'd be like, what am I doing? Like this makes no sense, you know. But that community is what continues to drive this, especially as the owner being someone that's lost. Like I said, whether it's being a gamer or a collector, I feel like I'm neither of those right now. I am this like liaison of getting games to people that want to collect and play them, yeah. which is just a different spot to be in, but I'm okay with it because of the community.
Yeah. Well, this brings up another question I wanted to ask you. So you're open on Tuesdays to Saturdays from noon to 8, right? Yeah. And you have no employees right now, which you know, I, as close friends with Ben, seeing him start businesses and being a part of a small business, it's like, that's the way of the road, especially when you get started. It's just like insane dedication to it. But are you like worried about getting burnt out? Are you considering bringing other people in so you can kind of share some of the time that you're at the shop? Because right now, I mean, today's Monday, and you're at the shop, and I've known other times where you come in when you're not open, certainly. So. Oh, yeah. How's the work? And, you know, you mentioned you have a daughter, and I didn't know about the home renovation too. You've got quite a bit on your plate. How are you managing all this?
So that's another great question. So first, like, listen, I'm crazy. I'm a crazy person. Okay. So like, I don't live a normal life at all. Small business owners don't live normal lives, or not normal, maybe traditional. Okay. So, I don't have a traditional job. Being a small business owner, like this is, you know, I don't want to say this as if I'm like saying it for the first time. This is groundbreaking news, but like you truly never stop working. You know, I'm constantly, you know, responding to messages, interacting with customers, even outside of the store via social media. Always kind of thinking about what tomorrow brings, what I have to inventory, what I have to price. So small business owners truly never stop working. Work-life balance is good because, like I said, I am trying to make a good effort to not find my identity in owning this business at all. Does this take up a huge portion of my life right now? Yes. Is it why I'm on this earth? Not at all. You know, like I said, I have a wife, I have a child. I personally have a faith. You know, those are the reasons why I'm here. This game store is what I feel like I'm supposed to do in our community. So that's helpful with the work-life balance, is to not find my identity in buying and selling games. That's a weird identity to find yourself in my opinion. So, you know, I'm thankful I have a wonderful wife with a very flexible job that allows us to have great family time together. You know, like I said, our daughter's only 1, so that's helpful and tough. Like, she's growing so quickly before our eyes, dude. Like, every month I'm like, when did you learn how to do that? Like, what word are you saying now? This is crazy. So life's happening so quickly. So it can be tough when, a Friday to Saturday, I'll leave the house at 9 a.m. and then I'll see her the next morning at 6 a.m. So like there's a few days a week where I just don't see her. But it's good in the fact that because she is only one, like I'm not currently missing whatever soccer games or basketball games or like these activities that she is really into. And then, my wife and I, we'll talk about this constantly. We'll be like, hey, do you want to go on a date this week? Cause like, we have to remember to do that and like prioritize that time. You're right in saying that I don't, by the way, I keep getting emails. I'm so sorry if those are picking.
Oh, no, you're good. You're good.
I'm still stuck in the 90s and barely know about technology. So I apologize. But, like you said, I don't have any employees. That is certainly a hope for the foreseeable future. I'd love to be able to hire somebody so that maybe on a Friday or Saturday I can leave the store around 5 or 6. So that's definitely going to be a part of this store moving forward. It's tough, man. I have to do a better job at allowing myself to hire somebody. Here's what I mean by that is I think because there's a few parts to this. Because of the personable aspect of this job, which is the regulars and the customers that I talk to every single week and have built a relationship with, I have to be okay with not thinking that only I can do that, because that's not true. Other people can do as well a job or a better job than me at building those relationships. And like, I think I have to, I'm still trying to get to a point where I accept that, which I'm getting there. The second thing is trade-ins. Like, it can be tough whenever, you had mentioned it, and I'll be honest, like there's fairly consistently, there's collections that are worth thousands of dollars that are coming into the store. So to know kind of what to look for within that collection, how to check condition, and then what offer to make, and then how to negotiate. That can be difficult to teach somebody. So I'm it's kind of tough to find someone that I have to make the decision. Do I want to teach someone that aspect of the job, or is that something that I would love to see someone have some sort of, at least ground level understanding of negotiation. And then third, honestly, is the space. Like your viewers might not be able to see it. We don't have the biggest store here. And so the workspace is actually the space that I'm in, which is separated by about 6 feet by like 6 feet wide by about 8 feet, in depth. And so there isn't a lot of space to work. So if I were to hire someone, a lot of it would have to be, them being here while I'm not. So there's still, like I said, we're only 7 or 8 months old. So I'm still able to do this on my own. I haven't gotten burnt out yet. I think because of, like I said, that work-life balance of prioritizing certain things, but also like the excitement of stuff getting brought in here every day, dude, it is thrilling. It is thrilling. So that, like, I certainly haven't gotten burnt out. I haven't felt, I feel more energized than ever. I feel more motivated than ever right now. But hiring someone is coming. I have to do, like I said, a better job of, I think, seeking that person out, but also being okay with it. And I also have to figure out the space issue, because that is an issue. So I'll figure that out over time, though, whether we expand, this store in our current location or look for a new one.
Well, that's a great leading question, or leading thing to say for me, just because so seeing from when I first came in, and certainly didn't look empty, but you had room to grow and add things.
Yeah.
And then just, each time, more and more things have come in. You've got new shelving, the shirts that you have in the background, that's new, like the way you've decorated and stuff like that. I was telling Holly, I was like, Evan, I think is going to have to move. Maybe not soon, but at this rate, and the way, at least from my outside perspective of the way the business is growing, the way things are coming in, I was like, he's going to outgrow that spot. So is that something on your mind as far as like, it's, I guess you wouldn't expect that 7-8 months in that you'd be like, oh no, I'm outgrowing this space already.
You're 100% right. The original idea when we opened up this brick and mortar was I'll be here for probably a few years, and then seeing where the business is at that point, I'll either we'll pull the plug, or we will look at what growth could look like from a brick and mortar standpoint. I thought that was going to be about a 24-month vision or plan.
Right.
That got shortened to about 4 or 5 months in. I was looking around, and the inventory, like I said, at first we had about 2,000 games. We're probably pushing about 3,000 at this point. And it's a lot. So like I said, 4 or 5 months in, I started looking around, and I'm thinking to myself, if this business is to grow, what I have to do is be able to offer more inventory. So while I have 2,500 to 3,000 games here in the store for sale, I have that many in my attic right now at home from the store that I've had to bring home because I can't fit it here anymore. You had mentioned the shirts. A huge goal after we opened was, like I said, I'm in a basement. It doesn't look great down here. So I was like, how can I draw the eye to the wall? How can I draw the eye away from the stains on our floor and draw the eye up? So blacked out the ceiling, and now I have people donate a lot of shirts. A lot of my purchase, the ones behind me are vintage gaming shirts that I purchased. A lot of them, though, are donation that I just have up for the visual to be able to draw the eye up, all video game related. I've been finding these video game tins online that I put everywhere to kind of, again, draw the eye and make it feel like that game room or that bedroom that you grew up in, that you had the posters on the wall and you could barely see wall space. And it's just like this kind of orchestrated visual of what a gaming haven would be. I'm certainly to the point where expansion's needed from a size standpoint. I'm only 450-ish square feet of space down here. Like I said, we're a small store, but I could potentially outfit about triple or quadruple that right now, believe it or not. So definitely looking at moving that timeline up considerably from that 2-year period down to right now. I'm trying to figure that out. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Expansion is needed. Like I said, there's I keep saying like I said over and over again. I apologize. But I just get so excited talking about this stuff. Like I said, there is a experience-based part of the store that has always been the goal. If you have something for people to do, they'll spend more time there doing it. So that's why I have the TVs up. Unfortunately, a lot of my inventory has now had to go in front of the TVs because it's the only place that the inventory can go. With a larger location, I really am hoping to have a dedicated gaming space or gaming lounge, whether it's, if I were to move into a building that had a basement, for example, or just expand this current location, I could knock down a wall or two and keep going this way. Have a gaming lounge to where consistent tournaments are held. People can come in and just have free play gaming, to just get more and more people to feel comfortable, feel like it's a part of, an extension of their family room or basement growing up. They can come here and have those same experiences from a gaming standpoint. So that's a huge goal moving forward, is if we are to get a building, to be able to have this huge experience-based part of the store where, like I said, some tournaments could be used. Hopefully we could even draw people from Pittsburgh up if it's the right kind of tournament. So that's definitely on the table now as we've expanded so quickly.
And I have a few other random questions, but ones that I really want to get to, just because I'm so curious, because obviously I'm, as a consumer only, I can see trends, but you see them way more than I do.
Oh, sure.
What do you feel right now? Like what is popular and what is not so popular? Like it seemed like post-COVID, I mean, GameCube was
huge, yeah.
Was hit. And it's funny too, because you can look at like the different reasons why, whether it's that people of that generation are now just old enough to have money. Mm-hmm. Then there's also like the social media element. Like if Scott the Woz drops his GameCube video, correct, certainly that has an effect. But what are you seeing right now as far as what's popular, what's coming in? I'm really curious about what you see from that angle.
Sure. So since I opened up in November, the best-selling console and games by far, and I mean by far, is the Nintendo Wii.
Really?
Oh my goodness.
That's so shocking to me because I don't care all about Wii stuff.
Same.
And no one I know does.
Same. So
But
there's definitely a few reasons behind that, which I'll get to. But here's some crazy numbers. So since I opened up in November, I've sold somewhere between 50 and 60 Wii systems. I've probably sold 400 or 500 Wii games, probably 100 Wiimotes. That's all just since November. Like, it is by far the best-selling system here. Few reasons for that. My belief is, and I can back this up with some evidence just based on talking to the folks that are buying it, a lot of them are older parents or grandparents are buying the system for when their grandkids come over, right? So they want to get the system, 4 controllers, Wii Sports, and Mario Kart for when all the grandkids come over. So it's a super family-friendly system. It's a party game system, right? So you can use 2, 3, 4 players for most of the games. The other reason I think it does well here really is the college students. There's a few colleges in the area, and those are the other folks that are buying these Wii systems. They want them for the dorm. I guess kind of to your point though, the third reason would be it's the cheapest way to play GameCube games. If you have if you have the earlier model Wiis, obviously, you and your listeners would know it can play GameCube games. So it's the cheapest way to play GameCube. All you need is the memory card and the GameCube controllers, which a lot of them you can get aftermarket for $10 a pop. And then you can just get your games, and you can buy a Wii for $50 and play GameCube games. So it's like all those things together just create this perfect storm for the Wii being an amazing seller, at least here in this store. I'm not sure if that's the case with other game stores in Pittsburgh or nationally. But dude, in this store, it's number one. Second is the PS3. Wow. I sell at least one a week. People are looking for DualShock 3s. Almost every day that I'm open, someone comes in looking for a DualShock 3. There's got to be a bunch of reasons, but it's just people are looking for PS3 stuff around here. I have an awesome collector. He's become a really good friend of mine, regular here. He collects only for the PS3, no other system. He's looking for every title that was released in the US, every variant, every cover art. He's trying to collect them all, just like Pokemon. Yeah. He's only a PS3 collector, which is shocking. There aren't too many of those out there. From a stuff getting traded in standpoint, though, huge amount of Wii. So as sought after as it is in our area, a lot of it gets traded in, because if you owned a Wii, 15 years ago, you also owned 30 games, because there were just games were released and then very quickly became cheap. So you could bargain bin those games at a GameStop for 3 for $10 all day. So a lot of people have an amazing amount of Wii games. So those are traded in very consistently. More recently, it's been PS1 has been just going crazy, which is really good, because in March of this year, so 4 months after we opened, I had a gentleman come into the store and he asked if he could buy every PS1 game I had in the store. So I
remember that. I was a little annoyed because I'm like, hey, this is what I'm coming in to buy. Now you're out. So he squeezed me out of every PS1 game I had. So that's been replenished really, really well. About a month ago, in one day, I had 400 NES games traded in between 2 people, and NES games come in pretty consistently. I'd say probably slower sellers here. Super Nintendo has slowed down a lot for me, a lot. Original Xbox does not sell super well. Really early on, whenever I opened up, I was selling Wii U systems and games like crazy. I barely sell them anymore. I think the people that wanted the Wii U in the Butler area got it, and then no one else really wants it right now. Yeah. But yeah, those are definitely trends. Like you'd mentioned, though, GameCube is huge from an our age standpoint. Right. Yeah, people that are in their late 20s, 30s, have some extra income. They're like, okay, I want to play Double Dash again. I want to play Luigi's Mansion again, especially without all the new, Luigi's Mansions coming out. So there is that nostalgia feeling, man, like bringing it back to the start of our conversation. It's just these experiences that we had playing games when we were, 8 years old, for example, like they're still stored in our memory. Like we didn't forget them. And whenever you see that game again, you just start to think about that again.
you just start to get that feeling. Like I said, I can remember being at my cousin Anthony and Angelo's house playing Crash Bandicoot 2, and I'll never forget that feeling. And that's still a game I play today. And that feeling dictates trends, 20, 30 years later, which is amazing.
As far as you mentioned some of these insane trade-ins, like specifically you mentioned this PS1 and Sega CD trade-in that happened a few weeks ago that had Tron Bon. When I saw your Instagram story, I screenshotted it and I put it in our Discord in our retro channel. I was like, guys, look at this. And people were like, holy crap. This is insane. And man, it's unfortunate. I mean, it's fortunate and unfortunate or unfortunate that Tron Bon was in there, because I was like, man, I probably would have wanted to buy like 3 or 4 of these games, but I got to rip this Band-Aid off and get this one big one. But other than, so there's obviously those types of trade-ins. Is there anything that's come in that's just maybe not rare, but simply weird or cool or unique that you were really excited about?
Yes. That's another really good question. When I get not for resale games that come in here.
Nice.
And not maybe, not like Sonic 2. 90% of those games are not for resale. When I get not for resale games in, I for as a wrestler, if any wrestling fans, I mark out. That's a term for like I get giddy, So I love when not for resale stuff comes in. When people bring in old gaming merchandise, so promotional items from the 80s, early 90s, like I mentioned, all these tees behind me are promotional items for when, for example, when Resident Evil came out, when Dino Crisis came out, when Final Fantasy VII came out, right there. So whenever folks bring in these unique, obscure promotional items that I didn't even know were in Butler, Pennsylvania, but were in people's closets, or people had held onto them since they got it as a promotional item 25 years ago, then when that walks into this store, and that happens very consistently, I tell people all the time, I've stopped questioning it. Like I'm always like, well, there's no way it can get better than this, right? And then something else walks in and I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't believe it. Like just crazy stuff. I mean, here I wasn't planning on showing this, but like I'll show you. So I have 2 or 3, like these are still never taken out of the box. Monster Hunter 4, for the new Nintendo 3DS XL. I have a Zelda one back there. Like things that are sealed that have never been opened are coming in here all the time. Complete in box stuff. I have a complete in box Rob the Robot for the NES. It's the test market system. So it's the one that was sold in test markets before they did a nationwide launch. That, a collector owned that. He lives 5 minutes down the road. So when those things come in, it like my jaw drops a little bit, but I have to make sure I like stay composed because I'm a place of business at the same time. So, dude, when all those things come that I just didn't think were in Butler, like I said, the complete in box obscure stuff, the promotional items that you could only get in places like, they had them in California or like, the East or West Coast where a lot of promotional items were. When just this sealed stuff comes in, that I'm like, how is this in Butler? And it walks into the store almost every week. Those are the things that really get me excited, and I think they help keep me from getting burnt out, because it's always a wonder of what's going to happen this week, what's going to come in this week. I get to live that every Tuesday when I open up. I turn the lights on. I say, I wonder what's going to come in this week, and I wonder who's going to come in and whose story I'm going to get to hear. Like I said, I hear vulnerable stories all the time from these people that have some wild stuff. A lot of them we get to talk about their childhood, about the games they used to play. A lot of it's in excitement. A lot of it I get to kind of even talk. Here's a great example. This just happened 3 days ago. A couple came in with 3 or 4 boxes worth of stuff. They set it down. I started talking to them. And so, typically it was a couple in their, I don't know, maybe like 60s. So I said, oh, who who moved out? I just kind of figured a son or a daughter moved out. And they said, actually, our son passed away about 6 months ago, and we've been going through his stuff slowly. And, we heard about you. Our neighbor told us great things about you. And, we just decided to come here. So we were able to talk about their son, his favorite games, his interests, his likes, going through the grieving process. Like it's those things too, that make, so as much as I can remember the garage, when I was garage sale hunting and Facebook Marketplace, I can remember those things. I now get to look at these really cool, unique items, and I get to remember the conversation I had with that person about how they got here into the store and the story behind, when they found it at a garage sale or whatever, or when their son or when their child had it and how much it meant to them. So it's really cool to be on this side of that and to see the crazy stuff that comes in here, man. Always keeps me going.
I feel like a general theme of our conversation here is like this idea of like meaning behind, I don't know if mundane is the right word, but meaning. I mean, we're talking about pieces of plastic and cartridges, but that always is the common theme, is that it's like, yeah, sure, there can be I don't know if a scummy side of collecting on both sides, whether seller or a collector. Man, I've stopped yard sailing because some of these people that are out for games, I can't move like them. I can't operate like they do, because I find it kind of gross. Yeah. People showing up at way early for yard sales, practically. I've seen YouTube videos of people not getting in fights, but like practically pushing people over. I'm like, not that I've seen anything crazy here, but I can't be as somewhat disrespectful as some of these people are, and they succeed, so yeah. There's that angle of it, of course, negative, but the positive that, like I said, I feel like the thing that keeps coming up in this conversation is just this idea of like the video games as being a silly little hobby or a collection of pieces of plastic, the meaning we derive from them, but also the interactions that are born from them. And I think that that's kind of the thing. I mean, that's why I do this job. This is why you do that job. Yeah. And it's easy to get caught up in internet stuff. As you said, like console wars, whatever. We deal with that all the time as a PlayStation podcast, and having just console podcasts in general. But it's when you're one-on-one, whether you're at a game store or an event or a too many games type thing, that's where it's like, oh yeah, all of that dumb stuff melts away, and it's about the interaction between people.
Yeah, you're 100% right. What's really cool about these games is for every single one of them, there's, for the folks buying them, there's going to be a new owner, or there's going to be a new player of that game. And that means something. Like, these games were developed by these creators to be played. Games aren't made to not be played. Games are made to, at some point in their life cycle, be played and be played to completion. And so I think video games are one of the coolest art forms that's ever been created. It's these really artistic, creative people that are designing these incredible, immersive games that then someone can purchase and then experience that art and have an emotional attachment to it immediately. Like, that's an incredible form of art that I don't think gets discussed in the community nearly enough, which is just like, guys, like this is art that we are experiencing. And then to be able to be a distributor of that art as a game store owner is really, really sweet. I know that's also been a theme of this entire thing. Like, I just feel like I get to put these emotional, like these just this thing of feeling into the hands of people that want to feel it. Like, that's really sweet. And that's also the benefit, like I mentioned, of the store. Garage sales, it's a very quick transaction to where you're probably never going to see that person again. They're probably never going to see you again. I think that's why so many of those interactions via content creators, or just that we see in the wild, can be awkward, can be silly, can be like just not appropriate, is because the person buying the game typically knows I'm never going to see this person again. So I don't really care what kind of impression I make or give, or what reputation I hold, because whatever. As a game store, and this isn't just because I'm a game store, I desire this. Like I mentioned, 90% of the people that come in here are going to come back. So I want to be able to build that relationship. And what's cool is like, it's easy to do. It's around something that people that come down here are probably looking for video games, because I have signage everywhere outside that says that we only sell video games here. Though a lot of people, not a lot, I probably had half a dozen guys come down here looking for the skill slot machines. And they're like, where are your slot machines? I'm like, I don't have any down here. They're like, all right, see ya.
Yeah, go down the road. There's plenty of those.
Go down the road. There's plenty. Yeah. But, most people down here are down here looking for video games. So it is a very organic, seamless opportunity to build that relationship that I have the benefit of having that reoccurring because people come back. And so that can take away the sleaziness, and that can take away the not caring about a reputation or not caring about what impression you're making. Because like I keep saying, like when you're a part of a community, trust is really important. So the moment that there is no trust or that's broken, the community crumbles and people stop wanting to come. So that's the cool thing about a store, is you get to build that community around here.
Yeah. Well, Evan, this has been awesome. I told you this would be an hour. We're an hour 10 in, and I could probably keep going, but I don't want to hold you anymore. And today's a double recording day for me, so I got to quickly eat lunch and stuff like that. But it's, busy Mondays. It's like, if I'm going to have a busy day, preferably not today, but that's okay. I'm glad we got to do this. I was telling you before we started, I was like, we had talked about doing this later, but I was like, I don't want there to be a chance if the baby comes, then this is going to be pushed a long time. So let's get this done. Let's make it happen. So I'm glad we could do this. But before we sign off, Evan, where is Main Level Games? How can people find you online or, the like?
Sure thing. So first, dude, thank you so much for this. This was, the pleasure was all on this end of the camera. Like, you're an awesome host. This podcast is great. And thank you for even asking me to do this. Like, don't know how much that means to me. I super appreciate you. And yeah, for folks that want to follow along with all the madness here, I have a Facebook and an Instagram at Main Level Games. I don't have a website yet. That was supposed to happen in like March of this year, but the brick and mortar keeps going crazy. So all I have is the storefront and our Facebook and Instagram at Main Level Games. So people can give us a follow on there. And I haven't done this yet, but if someone like sees something that I post, one of your listeners sees something I post, like I'll ship it to you. We'll figure that out. No problem. I'm super easygoing. I want to also mention too, if you're a listener of the show and you, let's say between now and, I don't know, August 15th. So for the next month, if you're a listener to the show and you come into the store and you show me that you are a listener to the show, I'll give you $5 off a purchase of $25. So we'll give you 20% off that purchase.
Nice.
Would love to kind of give back to the show in that way and your listeners. But yeah, that's how you can follow along. That's how you can be a part of all this, all the Main Level Games fun. And yeah, man, but thank you again for this. This has been awesome.
Yeah, I know that we've heard of some listeners coming in.
Oh yeah,
and checking things out.
Some signed Vitas as well have come into the store, I believe.
One of our signed Vitas made its way. I told you, dude, hopefully that's on a sticker, because that lost value right there. That's no one's buying it for that. But
lost or gained, depending on who you ask. Lost or gained.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, thank you again. This has been awesome. Maybe at some point we can, a year from now or whatever, check in and see. Hopefully you'll be in a new place. Many changes. Who knows? I mean, it feels like right now things are only going up, and so the future, who knows? So
sure thing.
Cool, man. Well, thanks again. And thank you, of course, to our audience. If you're listening to this ad release, you're a patron over at patreon.com/laststandmedia. We really appreciate you. That's how we're able to do stuff like this. And if you're not, that means you're listening a little bit later on YouTube. If you want to check us out on Patreon, that'd be awesome. You get early access to this. Exclusive access and sometimes early access to Sacred Symbols Plus, early access to all of our other shows. And we appreciate your support over there. I will have links for Evan's socials and Main Level Games, their socials, so you can check them out down in the description below. And we'll be back, of course, as always, for more Sacred Symbols. Until next time, we'll see you later. Goodbye.
Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Collins Last Stand LLC, and is proudly recorded in the USA. The show is conceived by, is written by, and is directed by me, Colin Moriarty. My co-hosts are Chris Raygun Maldonado and Dustin Furman. The show is produced by executive producer Dustin Furman. It's edited by associate producer Ben Smith. All of Last Stand's theme music is by my best friend, Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand shows, including Sacred Symbols, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer level on Patreon, our highest tier, and we're grateful for your thoughtful and kind contributions to our independent endeavor. Thank you.